Hello and welcome back to Hollowponds Solo Sagas, and today we are going to talk about solo role-playing. We're going to do another one of my opinions on masterclass, whatever you want to call it. Masterclass sounds a bit too full of myself, but it's the title that we gave it. And today what I wanted to talk about is a very key aspect of solo role-playing, particularly when we're dealing with anything that we are talking about within the role-playing sphere, and that is trying to create and maintain rounded, immersive characters within our games. And what I'd like to talk about is the importance of why it's important to create a more rounded, compelling type character, and some tips and ideas about how we would do that. So yes, welcome back. Thank you very much if you're a subscriber. If you are new to the channel, please could you consider subscribing. We do one of these how-tos on about a once a month basis. And apart from that, we do lots of actual plays of solo, so you can see these things, these skills being put into practice. So yes, compelling characters. Why is it important to have a compelling character? Well, the major driving factor of any of our solo role-playing games are the characters within those games. I mean, it's not to offend anyone, but if you aren't driving your games, even if they're combat heavy, and we'll have a separate subject carrying the balance between combat and narration and narrative games within gaming, but even if they are quite combat heavy, your key drive is the characters that will drive your story along. Otherwise, you are playing a skirmish game or a board game, which is fine. It's absolutely, I have no problems with whatever you're doing. You do what you're doing. Whatever you get the enjoyment from is the key driving force between everything that I've talked about. Is you get your own enjoyment from what you do. But if you want to be doing and focusing on solo role playing, then the character, be them NPCs or PCs, someone made a comment that all characters are PCs when you solo play, the character is important. One of the first things you need to think about with your characters is their purpose. Why are they in your story? What is the character's purpose? You can put some broad headings over the top. They're a treasure hunter. They are trying to get home. They are trying to survive till the next day is a bit more general, but any of those sorts of things. So we have Quackbane. Quackbane is a bard and he's trying to make some money. So Quackbane is pursuing fortune. We have Staff. Staff is pursuing the western border. Staff is trying to get his team to the western border. Simon from The Walking Dead. Simon was trying to survive, is still alive, trying to survive. The primary drive for Simon is surviving till the next day. Then we have our cyberpunk characters. Their primary drive is to pay rent at this stage. Timu has a drive, but the rest is mainly to pay rent. If you can put something good behind that drive, family, friendship, ties, it gives your characters more of a push. Even the non-primary characters, I'm going to call them NPCs, should have a drive. There should be a reason why they're there, the reason why they're doing what they're doing. Otherwise, why don't they just wander off? Give your characters a drive. In the recent Electric State video that we released, the gang members that the travellers encountered had a drive. Even though they were just NPCs that dropped in, we gave them a drive to give them purpose. And that drive comes from their backstory. Giving your characters some form of backstory, a backstory that matters, a backstory that can tie. If you can tie that backstory to others of your characters, that's even better. The gang members had backstory, they were veterans. That gave us avenues of interest. They gave us things that we could push, things that we could interact with our main characters interacting with those characters. That gave us a depth, even to the small NPC. We gave depth to various characters. It could be a bar staff. If the bar staff is just transitory, don't worry about it. The bar staff within Pirate Borg, we gave character to. We gave them a voice, we gave them a depth. If we were interacting with them further, we would give them family ties. We would give them names that would have the bar staff knowing each other. Possibly they have a relationship. Possibly they're going to ask for things. We do the same things within Cyberpunk. We're giving the characters background. Cyberpunk is a good one to talk about background because Cyberpunk gives us some fantastic tools, as does Traveller, as does Hostile, as does the life paths within the Twilight 2000, when you're rolling a character using life paths. It generates a history for your character that then gives you a background that you can draw upon. One of the classic advices for a referee running Cyberpunk, if you watch anything to do with Cyberpunk, is look at your character's life path rolls. You can have enemies in there, you have friends, you have family members, you have instants that you can rely upon. It gives a depth to your character by giving them a backstory. Backstory is a classic thing that a player will turn up with a big backstory, but it's a good thing if you're solo playing because it gives you ideas to drive it forwards. Simon in Electric State, his sister died in the war. That means Simon has a sort of grudge and Simon has something he wants to prove. Don fought in the war. He doesn't want to do that anymore. He used to be a surfer. He wants to go back to being a surfer. None of this is relevant to the current part, but it is relevant to why they're doing what they're doing. It gives you that immersive character build, that feel that you can latch onto, and when you roll some dice or you turn a card, it feeds your ideas. You have a less chance of hitting a writer's block, less chance of hitting a barrier of not knowing what to do next if you give them an interesting backstory, using some of those tools, transport some of those tools out of one game and into another, so you can create a nice background, a life path, a story as to why they got to where they are. Now, one of the other things about a character that you don't have being just you sitting at a table or standing or wherever you like to set a roleplay is you don't have the other players. Now, because of that, you don't have the things that they bring, their personalities, their quirks, the quirks they decide to give to the characters. So once you have generated the life path of a story, the life path of a character, once you have generated a small backstory for your NPC, give them some sort of personality quirk. A classic one, Quackbane. Quackbane has the way he talks at the corner of his mouth, and the quack. Give them a thing that ties your head to. We've got Captain Pete, he's always trying to crack on to the ladies and never succeeds. A thing. We have Staff, he's very gruff, has his East End voice. A thing. We have Jane, who is always trying to chase Staff and do stuff. A thing. Give your characters that thing that you can latch onto and draw into. I think, like, I've never done any form of acting training at all, but I've watched lots of things on the television, and back when we used to watch television, and YouTube videos where actors will say, you know, they try and identify what is the aspect of the character and thing, a walk, a way of speaking, wear an item of clothing. If it helps you, wear an item of clothing. If it helps you, switch hats when you're playing different characters. Give them a quirk, and if you can visualize it and see it. So we've got the way Timu dresses. I see that in my head. The way Miriam talks and dresses, I see that in my head. Owen being really somber, I see that in my head. Develop some personality quirks. There's some guidance that I remember reading, and I can't remember who wrote it, about 3 things. Come up with 3 things for your character. 3 personality quirks, 3 bits of information, 3 things. I don't do this consciously, I do this subconsciously. So for my core type of characters, I will try and develop 3 personality things, a way of speaking, or a way that I can imagine them standing or walking, or a thing that they lean towards when they're having a conversation. 3 things that you can do to really, I mean, the cast of Pirate Borg is prime. We have the name, we have Master Bates, young lad, has that voice, likes the arts, likes the stuff, shouldn't really be a pirate. We have XO with the thing that I just randomly picked about his wife and why he went to sea. We have Captain Pete and his backstory. We have Seaman Staines being big and gruff and the way he talks about stuff. All these things, just grab a few things so you have those personality and those quirks that you can galvanize to really make your character come alive when you're sitting there at the table by yourself. And more than just those quirks, so more than just the quirks and the drive and their purpose, we have those aspects of character that we lean upon. Now, Owen is a good example of this. And actually the life paths generate this, and a few other systems generate these things. Electric State has the flaws. Here we go, that's it, the flaws. Don resorts to violence. Kurt tries to put in a performance to cover him when he thinks he's going to fail or he's a bit worried. Molly runs away. Flaws. Give your character at least one flaw. Not so heavy duty flaws that they turn into Simon, because Simon's flaw went too far. Simon's flaw is he's totally self-serving. He's practically a sociopath. That is his flaw, and so he throws anyone under the bus if he can then go for his purpose, which is survive another day. A flaw, it drives your story. It might drive your character out of the story, but it creates a story. Owen is a sneeze away from cyberpsychosis. Owen is borderline. Owen wants to get into trouble. Owen has all these things. Miriam's flaw is Miriam is in love with Owen. Miriam is guiding all of her purpose and all of her energy into Owen. That's her flaw. Timu, I can't remember what his flaw is, but Timu's flaw is he's always trying to get on with people. He's always trying to be nice to people. He may be being a pleaser, an over pleaser. Think about the flaws of your characters. And then when you have their flaws, have their motivations. Now, a motivation isn't just their goal. A motivation is their emotional drivers towards that goal. It goes a bit deeper for Staff than just he wants to get them home. His motivation I have in the back of my head, which I've only mentioned a couple of times, is Staff has a family. Staff has a daughter at home that he has hardly seen because he's served via most of his life. His wife, his army wife, would be at home looking after his daughter. His driving motivation is to get his family home because he's left his home, his real family is left behind to defend for themselves. So he has that underlying motivation to protect his family and that underlying motivation to get home. So yeah, his goal to fill in the little gap on the character sheet that Free League has got is get home. But the motivational drivers there, his emotional motivational drivers, those are sitting underneath, and those are the ones that you can consciously write down and you can fill in. But when you have your characters, particularly ones that you want to sit with and last for, which is where just murdering your characters carte blanche, it possibly doesn't create the best story. If it does, that's fine, because even Harmug in Morkborg, if you go back to the early Morkborg episodes, I'll put a link up there so you can go watch it. Harmug has driving, motivational forces, but Morkborg is a meat grinder. Morkborg is an easy meat grinder, but you can just quickly throw some in, which gives you more fun at the table, more ideas, driving things forward. Not only then gives you your compelling character, but makes it so much easier when you make a dice roll and have to think, what do I do next? When you flip a card, what do I do next? When you pull a random encounter, how do we deal with this encounter? If you have all of these tools, these characters, this cast of people in front of you, you can then envisage, what would they do in this situation? Would they do what I think they're going to do? Would they do what the dice are going to do? Would they do something different? What are their emotional drivers? And you can try and be true to them when you tell your story. And that's the key. Tell your story, have fun, do a bit of acting. If you can't make up a voice, some people say that talking out loud and doing voices, do it in your head. I mean, I know there is a percentage of people who apparently don't think in voices in their head. I can't understand that because I always do it all the time. But just like, have Stephen Fry do the voice. Pick a character. If you do it in your head, you don't have to be able to actually do the voice. I can't do an American accent. I really should learn to do an American accent. I can't do one. But when I'm doing a character, even when I speak in my voice, it's an American accent in my head. I just can't make the vocal cords do it yet. So have those characters, have that depth, have fun. Thank you very much. Hopefully that helped, discussing characters and how you can then give them emotional drivers, flaws, give them purpose and fill them out to improve your game sessions and give yourself a bit more fun. If this has been helpful to you and you are not a subscriber, please can I actively encourage you to hit that subscription button and subscribe. There will be more things like this coming, open for everyone. But if you'd like to see some of the content that will be members only, that will start to grow over the next few months, mainly because I'm going to go on holiday, please feel free, I hate it when people say that, please consider joining the Adventurers Guild, our beautiful, wonderful members of the Adventure. That's also, you join the Adventurers Guild, you instantly become a beautiful, wonderful person. Did you know that? Did anyone tell you that? All you need to do is click the join button that you'll find there, or the word in the description, or I'll try and put the join link up there for you to join. You can join the Adventurers Guild. There'll be early access. The Walking Dead Series 2 is going to go up very soon because I'm going to start recording it, and I'm considering doing some other stuff, possibly either within the YouTube membership or moving over to do some Patreon type stuff too, because people have been talking about one-on-one guidance. If that's going to help you, I can do that. Like stuff like this will just help you do stuff. I might run some games if people want to play a game with me DMing. All these things are possibilities if we move towards that sort of scope of having memberships and stuff. Then, you know, it'd be lovely if all I did was this for a living. Wouldn't that be lovely? Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your view. Thank you very much for your comments. Do comment below. Put down below what sort of characters you've created for yourself. What sort of techniques do you use to give your characters personalities and give your characters depth? Now, how do you deal with that at a table when you do a turn and you have a character come up? Have you ever had a character that's died and you've really not wanted to, and you've decided, no, I'm not going to let that person die. No, they're too much. Harmug, I really didn't want to kill Harmug off. Or even worse, Aya for, I'll put that up there. Sorry, I've got distracted. Aya for Starforge, I felt guilty for days afterwards when Aya died, because I really could see Aya in my mind's eye. Let me know what you think. Let everyone know, and we can have a bit of a conversation about our characters. And at that, I will end. Thank you very much for your time. I'll speak to you next time. Happy gaming.